If you travel either for work or for fun and you want to be more preparedness minded, stick around because today we're going to talk about what I carry on all of my flights that is TSA compliant that will still allow you to be more prepared for emergency situations. When we start prepping, usually we start at home, which makes complete sense. This is where we spend the most of our time, is at home, taking care of our families, or maybe at work. However, one of the things I didn't do a good job of my first few years as prepping was thinking about how to be more prepared in emergency situations when I traveled. Today, we're just going to talk about the things that I carry with me every day to keep me more prepared for emergency situations when I'm flying, whether that's just getting stuck in the airport overnight or getting stuck at a hotel somewhere that maybe I hadn't planned on, or heaven forbid, a more significant emergency situation. So when I travel, I am a pretty minimalist traveler. I am very much into the simplicity mindset. I lived in a tiny house for a few years and I got really good at thinking about the things that I actually use when I travel. And so you will find me 99% of the time traveling with just a carry-on suitcase and a backpack. And that will carry almost everything I need up to about a week and a half long trip, maybe longer depending on what I'm doing. When I traveled all of the time for work, I kind of got into a routine of what I took with me on every flight. And I will tell you, I want to be comfortable when I fly, particularly when I'm talking about international flights. So I would carry things with me like my water bottle and snacks, gum, things like hand sanitizing wipes. Even before COVID was a thing, I carried wipes with me. I carried chapstick. I made sure that I had minimal toiletries with me, particularly in international flights, so I could brush my teeth and wash my face, things to just make me feel a little bit more human at the end of a long flight. I also carried things like my Bose headphones so I could block out the world, and a book so I could stay entertained. And then obviously my phone and a little battery charger so that I could keep that phone charged at all times. So when I shifted into kind of the prepping space and I started traveling again, I realized like my mindset about what made me comfortable and what made me feel secure had shifted. Yes, I still wanted all those creature comforts that I always took with me, whether it was water or snacks, etc. But I also wanted to have something where I could respond to an emergency situation, at least to a certain level, and feel like, one, I was a little bit more in control of my surroundings, and two, that I could help other people if something happened. So the first thing that I always take with me when I travel now is just a little medical kit. This is just my little travel emergency medical kit, and it's by Adventure Medical Kits, and I absolutely love Adventure Medical Kits. They have kits that are kind of created for a lot of different things. They're really designed both for just kind of hiking, backpacking, and also for people who want to go off and do wilderness things. So you can buy a pretty significant kit from them. I like them because they're packaged well, they have quality materials in them, and they're just a really good brand, and they always come with great pouches and packs, which, if you've noticed, I really enjoy in all of these things. And so staying organized is also something that's really useful to me. So the kit that I have is just the Ultralight Medical Kit 0.5. They have a couple of different versions of this, but this is their smallest one. The reason I went with this one is because the reality is if I'm in an airplane and I'm kind of dealing with sort of an emergency situation, really what I want to be able to do is just tend to any kind of minor nicks or wounds that I might have while I'm flying. I'm not treating trauma with this kit. I'm not going to be able to stop any kind of major bleeding or catastrophe situation, but this does have stuff that you are likely to encounter when you're traveling. Stuff like things for blisters or just small scratches or wounds. If you have medical training and you want to take more of a trauma kit with you, most things are TSA approved. You're just going to want to take a bigger kit. I stick with this because it's really easy to throw in my backpack underneath the seat. And one of the things you want to think about with your everyday carry kit on airlines is you want it to be small enough to put in that bag that you slide under your seat. Because if there's an emergency, you want to be able to just grab that and get out. Okay, now we're going to break down what's in my other little kit. Think of this as like the mom purse meets prepper everyday carry kit. There's a little bit of everything in this bag that it just helps me, again, feel like I can kind of respond to some emergency situations without being stressed out. So the first thing I carry with me at all times is a headlamp. You know that if you've watched any of my videos, I'm a big proponent of headlamps. They're a great way to have light in an emergency situation, but also allow you to leave your hands free. The second thing is a Sawyer mini straw. This is just going to be, again, a way to filter water and make sure that you have clean drinking water available. So always carry a water bottle with me, and I try to keep that full when I'm traveling so that I always know that I have good water with me. The next part is just electrolytes. So electrolytes are really important. If you're in a stressful situation or you're dehydrated or you are like overheated, electrolytes are just a great way to kind of replenish a little bit. Again, I keep this, and then as I've mentioned, I keep snacks in my backpack. So I always have trail mix and usually a few energy bars. Again, I'm not going to live for days off of this, but at least it will give me a little bit of energy if there is some kind of emergency situation. The next thing that I keep in here are just emergency blankets. Emergency blankets are just thin Mylar blankets that you can use, and they really help retain heat. Again, in an emergency situation, if heaven forbid you're in a crash or some kind of thing, you're gonna wanna stay warm, and these are just a great way to stay dry and warm. There's a couple different kinds here. I don't really know why I have both of them in here, but I do. One's just a little poncho pouch kind of pack, and then one is just the Mylar ones that you've seen. If you've ever done a half marathon or a race, you've probably been handed a Mylar bag at the end. Keep those. They're great to keep for your preparedness supplies. I have tons of them folded up in my drawer downstairs, but I just travel with Mylar blankets. Again, it's a way to help stay warm in kind of an emergency situation. And then if you watched my 72-hour kit, you know all about emergency whistles, but I do keep an emergency whistle in my air kit because if I am trying to notify emergency personnel or something that someone is still alive, this is a great way to just get people's attention. So I always travel with this in my kit as well. Again, just to notify someone that I'm still okay and to get people's attention. It's a great little small thing that you can carry with you on a plane that gives you a sense of security. All right, the next two things are all about sanitation. And ladies, this is really kind of primarily for you. The first one is a Kula cloth. If you haven't heard of these are really popular in the hiking and camping community. These are just silver infused cloths that you can use to wipe if you need to do number one, and you don't have to worry about it. The urine evaporates and they stay kind of bacteria free. They have a great hook on them, so you can hook them on back of a backpack or things like that, or in your bag if you have them, and then they just dry out and you don't have to worry about carrying toilet paper with you all of the time for any sort of emergency situation. Highly recommend these. I have these in my car. I have these in my emergency backpacks. These things are like their weight in gold, and I use them all the time when I'm hiking and camping, and I would definitely use them in emergency situations. So I'll put a link below where you can get your own Kula cloth. I absolutely love these. And then the second part is compression toilet paper. So if you haven't heard of toilet paper tabs, they're little tiny tabs that basically when you get them damp, they expand to full size. These are what I would use if I had to go number two, right? So this is a much more compact way to take toilet paper with me in an emergency situation where I'm not taking a roll of toilet paper. This has 10 tablets in it. So again, you could in theory tear these apart. They're pretty large. They're about 12 inches square. So in theory, you could tear them apart and use them a couple times. So this would give you a couple of days probably of toilet paper that you would need in an emergency situation. And again, then you just throw them out and it's just like regular toilet paper. Also a really great thing to have. And then I have just kind of the practical prepper things. So 550 cord, which you can do all sorts of things with. Again, because I don't carry a knife, it would be a little bit trickier, but I could still use this to kind of tie up one of the emergency blankets, make a shelter, hook things together. You just never know when you need to connect things. And then of course, duct tape, because in the military, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you can't fix it. So I keep a little tiny roll of duct tape and 550 cord. These are probably the things I would use the least, but they still give me a sense of security and the idea that at least I could hand them to someone and use them. I also have some just practical travel items. So blister bandages, because there's nothing worse than trying to hike or walk when you have a blister. Dramamine, because I get air sick. And so this is just a thing to help me with altitude sickness or kind of motion sickness. And then I also keep a thing of sunscreen. Again, in a worst case scenario, if I was stuck somewhere and I was ended up being outside of an airplane or outside of an airport, it's always nice to have sunscreen just to make sure that you're protected. And then in the more mom category, I keep safety pins, Ziploc bags, a couple of pins, because again, you just never know what you might need. This is like the mom purse where you start pulling things out and you're able to supply the whole, neighborhood with everything you could possibly imagine. So that's my mom supplies that I keep in my everyday carry kit. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, I would love it if you just hit subscribe, hit like, so that you don't miss any of my content. And just remember, we want to travel prepared, not scared. Thanks so much for sticking around today.